In the scorched heart of the American Southwest, where the sun hung like a relentless judge over the arid plains, Apache King Haskebe-Naintail, known to his people as the Unyielding One, stood atop a jagged mesa, his eagle feather headdress casting a long shadow across the cracked earth. The drought had gripped his tribe for months, turning rivers to whispers and fields to dust. His warriors whispered of omens, but the king, hardened by battles against encroaching settlers and rival tribes, believed only in strength. "Water will come when we demand it," he thundered in council, his voice echoing like thunder over parched canyons. Yet deep down, a flicker of doubt gnawed at him, unseen by all but the stars that watched over the night. It was on such a blistering afternoon, as the tribe gathered by the dwindling stream that served as their lifeline, that fate unveiled a moment that would shatter his world. A young woman named Lonnie, with eyes like polished obsidian and a spirit woven from the threads of quiet resilience, approached the water's edge. She was no warrior, no elder, just a weaver of baskets and healer of small wounds, her life a tapestry of unseen acts of kindness. But as a child's cry pierced the air, a boy swept into the treacherous current by a sudden flash of hidden underflow, Lonnie didn't hesitate. With the tribe frozen in horror, she let her woven dress fall to the dust, stepping into the water unclad, her form a blur of determination against the shimmering haze. The Apache King, watching from his vantage, felt his breath catch in his throat, not from scandal, but from the raw, unfiltered humanity unfolding before him. Lonnie's world had always been one of quiet endurance. Born under a harvest moon in a time when the Apache roamed freely across the vast territories now scarred by white men's fences, she had lost her parents to a raid years ago. Raised by the tribe's elders, she learned the art of survival not through spears or bows, but through the gentle mending of spirits. She tended to the sick with herbs gathered at dawn, shared her meager rations with the orphaned, and wove stories into her baskets that spoke of unity and hope. The drought tested her like never before. The stream, once a bountiful vein of life, now barely trickled, forcing the tribe to ration every drop. Children grew weak, elders whispered of surrender, and even the king's iron will began to bend under the weight of despair. Lonnie had dreamed of rain the night before, vivid visions of clouds bursting like overripe fruit, but dreams meant little in the face of reality. That day, as she carried her empty gourd to the stream, the boy's mishap unfolded like a cruel jest from the spirits. He was little Kai, barely 7 winters old, son of a fallen warrior. Playing too close to the edge, he slipped on the slick rocks, the current, deceptively strong in its shallowness, pulling him under. Screams erupted from the onlookers, but the men hesitated, bound by traditions that forbade rash actions in sacred waters without ritual. Lonnie, unbound by such chains, acted on instinct. Her dress, a symbol of her modesty and status, was discarded without a second thought, pooling at her feet like shed skin. She plunged into the water, her lithe body cutting through the murk with the grace of a river otter. The cold shocked her, but adrenaline fueled her strokes as she reached the thrashing child, wrapping her arms around him and fighting the pull that threatened to claim them both. From his perch, the king watched, his heart pounding like war drums. Haskebe-Naintail had seen many battles, blood-soaked fields where men fell like autumn leaves, treaties broken like fragile pottery. He ruled with a fist of justice, demanding loyalty and strength from his people. Compassion, in his eyes, was a luxury for the weak, a distraction from the fight for survival. Yet here was Lonnie, vulnerable and exposed, defying not just the water but the invisible barriers of custom and fear. As she emerged from the stream, gasping, with Kai clutched to her chest, the tribe erupted in a mix of awe and murmurs. Women rushed forward with blankets, shielding her as she shivered, but the boy's coughs, wet and alive, silenced any judgment. The king descended the mesa, his steps heavy with unspoken turmoil. He approached the scene, his warriors parting like reeds in the wind. Lonnie, now wrapped in a coarse shawl, met his gaze without flinching. "The child lives," she said simply, her voice steady despite the chill. But in her eyes, he saw no plea for approval, only the quiet fire of one who acts from the soul. For the first time in years, the Unyielding One felt a crack in his armor, a profound realization that true strength lay not in conquest, but in the selfless leap into the unknown. That night, as the tribe gathered around flickering fires, stories of Lonnie's deeds spread like wildfire. The king sat apart, staring into the flames, his mind replaying the moment her dress fell, not as an act of impropriety, but as a shedding of all that held her back from saving another. It was the beginning of an unexpected turn, one that would challenge everything he believed. The drought persisted, but Lonnie's act ignited a spark in the tribe. People began sharing more freely, hidden caches of dried berries, secret springs known only to a few. The king, however, wrestled with inner demons. In his dreams, he saw Lonnie's form in the water, a symbol of vulnerability that both terrified and inspired him. He had always led by example of might, but now he questioned if that was enough. Days turned to weeks, and the stream dwindled further, forcing scouts to venture farther for water. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon in a blaze of crimson, a messenger arrived with grim news. Settlers had dammed an upstream tributary, cutting off what little flow remained. Rage boiled in the king's veins. This was war, a direct assault on their existence. He called a war council, his voice booming with plans for retaliation, swift raids to destroy the dam and reclaim their right. Warriors nodded, sharpening arrows, but Lonnie, invited for the first time due to her growing respect, spoke up. "King, blood will only dry the earth more. Let me go to them, speak of our shared need." The room fell silent. The idea was madness. Settlers viewed Apaches as savages, and a woman alone. Yet her words carried the weight of her recent heroism. The king, torn between tradition and this new pull toward compassion, reluctantly agreed, assigning 2 guards to accompany her. As she prepared, he watched from afar, his breath shallow, realizing this could be another leap into perilous waters, one that might drown them all or forge an unlikely bridge. Lonnie's journey to the settlers' camp was fraught with peril. The guards flanked her, silent sentinels against the unknown, but her mind raced with strategies born not of force, but of empathy. She carried no weapons, only a basket of woven goods, beads and herbs, as tokens of peace. The settlers' outpost loomed like a foreign beast, wooden structures defying the desert's curves. As they approached, rifles glinted in the sun, and a gruff voice demanded they halt. Lonnie stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering, "We come not for war, but for water. Our children thirst as yours do." The leader, a weathered man named Harlan with a scar across his cheek from frontier skirmishes, eyed her suspiciously. Stories of Apache raids had hardened his heart, but something in her gaze, perhaps the same quiet strength that had moved the king, made him listen. She spoke of the land's shared bounty, of how damming the water harmed all who depended on it. Harlan scoffed at first, citing progress and claims, but Lonnie persisted, sharing tales of her people's harmony with nature. An unexpected turn came when a settler child, pale and feverish, wandered near. Lonnie recognized the signs of heat sickness and offered her herbs. Reluctantly, Harlan allowed it, and as the child's color returned, murmurs spread among the settlers. In that moment, Lonnie saw a crack in their defenses, a realization that humanity transcended borders. Back at the tribe, the king paced, his warriors ready for battle if she failed. Hours stretched like eternity until scouts reported her return, not with arrows flying, but with wagons of water barrels trailing behind. The king's astonishment was profound. Lonnie explained how her act of healing had softened Harlan's resolve. In exchange for ongoing herbal aid, the settlers agreed to release partial flow from the dam, enough to sustain both sides. It wasn't conquest, but cooperation, a twist that redefined victory. Haskebe Nametail felt his world shift. This woman, who had bared herself to save one life, now bared her soul to save many. He called the tribe together under the stars, his voice no longer thunderous but tempered with humility. Today, we learn that strength is not in the spear, but in the open hand. Lonnie stood beside him, not as a subordinate, but as an equal, her presence a beacon. Yet the drought's grip tightened, testing this fragile alliance. Whispers of betrayal from both sides arose, and the king faced his deepest doubt: could compassion truly prevail over centuries of enmity? As tension simmered like heat waves on the horizon, an unforeseen storm brewed in the distant mountains, a deluge that would test the bonds Lonnie had forged. The king, inspired by her example, began small acts of change within the tribe. He shared his personal water rations with the elders, organized communal hunts where the weakest ate first, and listened to voices long silenced. Lonnie, elevated in status, became a bridge between worlds, teaching settler women weaving techniques while learning their farming methods. But doubt lingered. Some warriors grumbled that softness would invite invasion, and among the settlers, hardliners plotted to reinforce the dam. One fateful night, under a moon veiled by gathering clouds, a band of rogue settlers, emboldened by whiskey and greed, sabotaged the partial release, fully blocking the flow once more. Dawn brought chaos, the stream ran dry, and scouts reported the betrayal. Fury ignited the tribe. The king, feeling the sting of misplaced trust, rallied his warriors for war. "We have tried the path of peace," he declared, his eyes blazing. Lonnie, however, pleaded for one last chance. "Let me confront them with truth, not blades. Hatred dries the soul as drought dries the land." Torn, the king granted her until sunset, his heart heavy with the fear of losing her, and the fragile hope she represented. Lonnie rode out alone, her guards held back at the king's command, a testament to his growing faith in her way. The settler camp buzzed with unease. Harlan, upon seeing her, confessed the rogue's actions but warned of division within his own people. "Not all see as I do," he admitted, his scar twitching with regret. As arguments erupted among the settlers, some calling for expulsion of the traitors, others defending the sabotage, Lonnie stood firm, her voice rising like a gentle wind before a storm. She spoke not of vengeance, but of shared suffering, the children who played in the same dust, the elders who dreamed of rain under the same sky. An unexpected realization dawned on Harlan as she recounted her dive into the stream, the selfless act that had saved Kai. "You risked everything for one life," he murmured. "Why?" Lonnie's reply was simple, "Because one life echoes through many." Moved, Harlan rallied his moderates, confronting the rogues in a tense standoff. Just as fists clenched and guns cocked, the first rumble of thunder echoed from the mountains. The storm broke like a dam of the heavens, rain pouring in sheets that turned dust to mud and filled dry beds with rushing torrents. Back at the Apache camp, the king watched the sky unleash its fury, his warriors pausing mid-preparation. The downpour was a miracle, but his thoughts raced to Lonnie, exposed in the open. He mounted his horse, riding into the storm, rain lashing his face like accusations. Arriving at the settler camp, he found chaos, floods threatened to sweep away tents, and people scrambled for higher ground. There, amid the frenzy, was Lonnie, directing both settlers and her own spirit of aid, helping tie ropes to secure belongings, comforting crying children. The king dismounted, joining the effort without a word, his strong arms lifting crates and pulling the vulnerable to safety. Harlan, spotting him, extended a hand, not in challenge, but alliance. Together, Apache King and settler leader worked side by side, the rain washing away barriers as it quenched the earth. In that emotional climax, as lightning illuminated faces etched with exhaustion and newfound respect, the king witnessed the transformative power of compassion. Lonnie's generosity had not just saved a child or brokered water, it had ignited a chain of selflessness that bound two worlds. The rogues, shamed by the unity, surrendered, promising amends. As the storm subsided, leaving the land reborn in glistening green, the tribe and settlers gathered in a makeshift council by the now swollen stream. The king, his headdress sodden but his spirit alight, addressed them all. "We have fought the land and each other, but today, we see that humanity's true power lies in lifting one another." Lonnie stood quietly, her dress, now muddied but whole, symbolizing the vulnerability that had sparked it all. Harlan echoed the sentiment, vowing ongoing cooperation, shared resources, mutual defense against greater threats like encroaching railroads. The profound realization rippled through everyone: kindness wasn't weakness, it was the rain that ended droughts of the heart. In the days that followed, the alliance flourished. Children from both sides played together, elders exchanged stories, and the land healed under careful stewardship. The Apache King, once unyielding, became known as the Wise One, his rule tempered by empathy. Lonnie, ever humble, continued her weaving, each basket a reminder of interconnected threads. The story of that day, when she let her dress fall and stepped into the water, became legend, whispered around fires from the plains to the cities. It taught that in moments of crisis, selflessness could steal the breath of even the mightiest, only to fill it with hope anew. And so, in a world often divided by fences and fears, this tale endures as a beacon, that acts of compassion, no matter how exposed or risky, can transform enmity into brotherhood, despair into dawn. For in the heart of every human beats the potential for such grace, inspiring us to step into our own waters, unafraid, and emerge stronger together.